This is a video created to accompany the music education research text by Miksza, Shaw, Richerme, Hash, and Hodges. In this video, we'll walk through how to use SPSS to conduct descriptive analyses and produce plots similar to those presented in the Descriptive Statistics chapter of our text. For this video, we'll use the Descriptive Statistics chapter.sav file that was created to accompany the chapter and that is available among the online supplemental materials for our book. We'll begin with descriptive analyses of the age and flow scale variables, which are ratio and interval level variables respectively. SPSS refers to these types of variables as scale variables, which is just a summary term to capture both types. We will use the frequencies option to arrive at frequency distributions, measures of central tendency, measures of variability, measures of skewness and kurtosis, and histograms for the age and flow scale variables. If you navigate to Analyze, to Descriptive Statistics, and then down to frequencies like this, Analyze, Descriptive Statistics, to frequencies, you'll get to the appropriate dialog box. Then we can select the variables we wish to analyze and enter them into the variable space. So participants' current age, I'm going to scroll down to get the flow scale score, flow while practicing, and they're both now entered in the variable space. Note that display frequency tables is selected by default. As such, there's nothing we have to do to get a frequency distribution of the values of our variables. However, from here we can choose the options for the summary statistics we want by clicking on Statistics. Once in the Statistics dialog box, we can choose measures of central tendency, mean, median, and mode, measures of variability, standard deviation, variance, range, minimum, maximum, quartile values, and measures of skewness and kurtosis. And we can click Continue to return to the previous dialog. We can also click on Charts to request histograms for our variables, and then click Continue. Last, we click OK to run the analyses. SPSS then opens an output window that includes the results of the analyses you requested. So what we see first is a listing of the descriptive statistics for the participant's age and flow while practicing scale score. Here you notice that it says there are 170 valid data points for each of these variables. Given that there's 170 people in this data set, that means there are 0 people with missing values on either of these variables. Next, you see the frequency tables that shows the different values that were entered by the participants. So participants entered ages from 18 to 43. How many participants selected or entered each age, what percentage of participants entered each age, and then the cumulative percentage of participants entering each age as you go up. Then you see the same for flow. And finally, the histograms showing the quite skewed distribution of age and the relatively normal distribution of flow. We can also use the chart builder function to get plots and graphs in SPSS. We'll use that now to make box plots for each of these variables. So if we navigate to the Graphs drop-down menu and Chart Builder, we can then select the type of plot we want. Again, box plot. And we want to create simple box plots. So I'm going to click on this first image here and drag it into the open field. And then ask for participants' current age to be included on the y-axis. And then we can do this again for flow. But I'll click OK now to see the box plot of participants' age. And then return Graphs, Chart Builder, take participants' age out of the field, enter flow in instead, and click OK to get that box plot for that variable. And there it is. I'm going to delete this output now since we don't necessarily need it going forward. So one of the interesting features of SPSS is that there are often many ways to navigate the drop-down menu options to arrive at the same analyses. For example, within the Analyze drop-down menu, there is also a Descriptives menu option in which we could get some of the same information that we got from the Frequencies menu option. Therefore, navigating drop-down menus can be a bit confusing, and trying to remember how you conducted analyses from day to day while working on a project can be challenging. Fortunately, it's also possible to keep a reproducible record of your analyses by using syntax files. You can create a syntax file via the File drop-down menu to New and Syntax. And if you click on that, you get essentially a blank canvas of a syntax file that you could use to create code for the analyses that you run. Whenever you run an analysis using the drop-down menus, you could automatically paste the code for that analysis into this file. Although it's also possible to learn how to code in SPSS language, it's not necessary to do so. Instead, simply labeling the chunks of code you produce with the paste function and running it as you need can be helpful enough. Let's set up our descriptive analyses of the age and flow scale variables again, but this time we'll paste the tasks into a syntax file rather than clicking continue. So once again, I'll navigate from Analyze to Descriptive Statistics to Frequencies. All of our previous settings are still here. The statistics settings, the chart settings. But instead of clicking OK, I'll click Paste. You'll see that once you do that, there's some code that it becomes populated in the syntax file. Now if we highlight this chunk of code and push the green run arrow, we'll get the same output as we did when we used the drop-down menus. There's our output window. You see the descriptive statistics, the frequencies, and the histograms. Once again, I'll delete this. Since this code is often difficult to interpret on its own, it's not necessarily intuitive, it can be helpful to label each chunk of code by beginning a new line with the word comment, and then following your comment up with a period. So as an example, we can type in right here into the syntax file itself the word comment, and then label what this is, and then include a period. And you could see that once you do that, the comment you created becomes grayed out and separated from the actual code. Offsetting your labeling like this with a comment code tells SPSS that your label is not additional code to be run. If you don't offset your label, you'll get an error when you try to run your code. We've created syntax files that will replicate the analyses presented in each of the chapters that deals with statistics in our book for you. These files are available among the online supplemental materials for the book. So I'm going to close the syntax file now because we don't need it anymore. As you might recall from the text, the summary statistics we use with interval or ratio level variables are not necessarily appropriate for ordinal or nominal level variables. For example, to summarize the ordinal variable practice efficiency rating and the nominal variable degree, we would essentially just examine frequencies and percentages for each of the values for those variables, or maybe proportions, and then visualize those variables via bar plots. We can do that here. If we once again navigate Analyze to Descriptive Statistics to Frequencies, I'm going to reset our settings, and I'm going to enter in the practice efficiency rating, ordinal variable, and the degree indicator, nominal variable. And again, display frequency tables is checked by default, so we'll get that automatically, the number of people for each value and the percentages. We could also click on charts and ask for bar charts of these variables. Click continue. If we click OK, once again an output window will open. We could see here that for the practice efficiency rating item, 167 of the 170 participants completed that item, and there are 3 participants with missing data for that item, whereas all the participants completed the degree program item. So again, we have our frequencies of the number of participants and the percentage of participants that offered a 1 through 7 rating for rating their practice efficiency. And then we have frequencies and percentages of the participants in terms of who indicated which degrees, and then bar plots of these 2 variables. Once again, I'll delete this output as we don't need it. Researchers are also often interested in cross-tabulating ordinal or nominal variables. For example, a researcher might be interested in whether the participants' practice efficiency ratings varied as a function of whether they were graduate or undergraduate students. We can cross-tabulate those 2 variables by again navigating to Analyze, to Descriptive Statistics, but then choosing the Cross Tabs option. We can then move the degree status variable, undergraduate or graduate student, to the row option, and then find our practice efficiency rating variable and move it into the column option. If we click on cells, we can ask for not just how many people belong in each category, but also the percentages of people in each category. And there's also an option here to click for a clustered bar chart of these two variables, which we can select. Clicking OK again produces an output window. We could see for these two variables cross-tabulated that 4 people are missing a value on one or both of them. So we only have 166 out of the 170 participants represented in this analysis. Then we can see the cross-tabulation of the 7 options for practice efficiency rating values 1 through 7, and whether students are reporting being an undergraduate student or a graduate student. And we see the raw number of people in each category as well as the percentage. And then below, the clustered bar chart showing visually the ratings of 1 through 7 according to whether a student was a graduate student or an undergraduate student. We hope you found this video helpful, and thank you very much.